It's becoming a theme where overthinking K-pop and I analyze the same IVE music video, and there's this actual quality content, and I'm just pointing at random objects and saying, they're the keys to understanding everything. Just believe me. Today we're going to talk about Accendio, and just really quick, of course I shouldn't be surprised we both made videos on the topic. I do not have any tattoos to show off, but when overthinking K-pop got choked up talking about Sailor Moon, I related so hard, except it's just how I feel about Winx Club. But yeah, at first this was going to be an unscripted video of me gushing about how much I love magical girls and K-pop coming together. So what do you mean one of these girls can't be trusted? I've asked people to analyze the video, so I decided I couldn't just gush about it, and I started noticing strange tidbits the more I watched. Let's just gush for a little bit first, though. I do love the way it portrays what I have decided to call the spirit of girlhood. I like how the water motif conveys how this idea gets passed down from one girl to another. We start the music video in a pool, emerging from which is a sort of rebirth, and also where this awesome group of girls meets each other. And in the end, the staff winds up being plucked from the ocean, like the breath of girlhood has physically expanded just like the water. I love the way they twist tropes about girls as well, starting with blank expressions that become more melodramatic. The girls are allowed to assume real, vibrant personalities instead of having to be idols who are just cool on the surface. I like that they are allowed to be aggressive, the villainous Wonyoung portrayed as the one truly on the defensive, and I like the way that they take the Cinderella trope of something lasting until midnight and use it to highlight their capacity and aptitude to act for themselves rather than limiting them. And when they go to the realm that they fight in, there's this wall of items, including a skull made to look like chrome and reflecting red light, developing this unique aesthetic, but with the magical girl identity being so strong, it doesn't become too uncanny. The magical girl aura is too strong. So why do I think someone is suspicious here? There is a lot to talk about, but like the video, I have to be careful about how I frame this because it's not like someone here is inherently or even obviously bad. There is a book called The Stranger by Camus, and the protagonist kills someone, obviously bad, but no one understands why he did it, including himself. It was a split second of a decision, and he doesn't really react much, a recently developed pattern in his life. Gaeul is not the sole suspect here, but the IVE members really emphasize the question of why she steals the staff in the first place, and I have no true reasons to convey, but stealing without a reason should be treated like a bad thing, leading us to have to question many characters in the video who go along with things on either side, but searching for a motive is also not a decisive way to actually prove anyone is in the wrong, so we have to read into other details. I'm not a fan of math, but this video had me doing math, very simple math, as I noticed some numbers were clear motifs in the video. We'll start with Ray because that is the first hint of it. When all of the girls in the pool go underwater, she's counting from 7 to 8. The lyrics also count from 5 to 8, and the watch reads 5, 6, 7, 8 on the bottom left at the end. But this is about counting, and the sum of the numbers in the time on the watch at the end is going from 9 to 10, beyond what we have established as our normal count, but still counting from where Ray left off. This makes me wonder if she has some other knowledge of what is going on that we do not know about. The lyrics say, "Don't predict it, no way," and her eyes are also open when she's counting, as are Leeseo's, as if they are watching when normally you wouldn't. There's another number that I think is associated with one of the members, though, 4 and Gaeul. Obviously, when she's running, it says 4 hours ago, but Liz also has called Gaeul 13 times, 4 if you add each digit. And you can put the numbers together to get 48, a number that is symbolic of divinity. You could also get 84, which I think is most closely associated with 1984, the dystopian novel by George Orwell. This leads well into the discussion of outfits in the video, I think. Notably, in their second round of magical forms, they're all dressed almost exactly the same, to the point that it can be hard to discern the quote-unquote good IVE members from one another without clear shots of their faces instead of odd angles, because these are fight scenes. They are conforming to one appearance, while the seemingly evil IVE members have varied outfits with the same color palette but more character. In most, if not all, dystopias, people are expected to conform, and that is what the girls are doing here, making us question if the magic they want is good or even just good for them. There are also other issues with outfits, namely Gael's, as it changes from one of her scenes to the next. In some scenes, she has black safety shorts underneath her shorts, and she doesn't have them in others, despite there being no time to change in the narrative. I know this is nitpicky, but it is odd to have all this emphasis on changing appearances and at the same time doing so, but without any fanfare. There are also a lot of props that I find interesting in how they flesh out the story and its tone. Right in the beginning, Gael stands above the other girls with a unicorn floaty. A unicorn is a great symbol for a vehicle to a magic life, kind of like Gael in this video. It's based on an animal of prey, but is created to be something different according to the human mind or perception, implicating resistance to the existential other. We see Gael as the prey of the evil Ive, but perhaps that perception was wrong the entire time. The surroundings of the video are important too, like the block art piece that imposes on the room inside while reflecting the emptiness as they look for Gael. It also delivers their mission receipt, a hole opening while the rest is speckled with black, and you can see the inside of it through the hole, and it's not empty. This could indicate there is something inside at the end of the day, people being nefarious rather than empty vessels. There's also a designed couch, but the design is sort of ambiguous, like a colorful Rorschach test you would figure out as an individual. Personally, I thought of Space Invaders, but then I looked up what Space Invaders actually looked like, and it was not the same. Regardless, I think it gives life to the room, but Rey is the only one to sit in the living room, and notably sits elsewhere on this cylindrical seat with a clearer pattern. She might go there in order to blend in better, or her intentions clash with the more lively design. There are also important parts that come into play involving things like cinematography and I guess the direction. Some of it is very specific though. For example, there's a shot of Gael putting the staff in the fridge and there is an immediate cut to it sitting there from ever so slightly lower and thus with more weight. Similarly, Gael once stood above the others, but has moments where things need to be captured from lower, like when she steals the staff in the first place. This indicates a connection we only implicitly understand. We even see Gael's fingers shaking in the beginning, as if she is about to start counting right alongside Rey. We also see Ive hitting the ceiling when they activate the staff, a huge contrast with evil Ive jumping from the roof. But part of it is that it contrasts where you start, whereas where you end up. And maybe it is time to talk more in depth about the villains, because I have a hard time seeing them as all bad. Or if they are all bad, at least they are conscious of it. When we first see them, they are in this wide open grassy space with their eyes closed, and they're turned to the sky with magic and gaudy clothes. They at least seem to understand what they're doing, as every step of their plan seems deliberate, regardless of their actual intentions. And I think it's important to also note that their appearances could just be appearances. Maybe they have more attitude, but it's not like the good guys in Magical Girl content usually don't. It's usually to a lesser extent. I know Winx Club is less likely to celebrate quote-unquote attitude than, say, Bratz, where that's the point. But it's about girls, teenage girls who might fight, or they might just be under an upperclassman spell to make them meaner, like in Winx. Even good Yujin has a lot of attitude in her expressions, but I think we might be suffering from something called the person versus situation debate. We are first planted in the perception of one group rather than the other, and we are more likely to attribute personal blame to someone in our out-group than our in-group versus blaming situational factors. We think Gael stole the staff because she recognized something evil, but we have no reason to actually think this way, besides the attitude we are opposed to recognize more. The lyrics literally say first impressions, the stronger the better. And like I said before, the villains here aren't even always on the offensive. Villain Wonyoung looks low-key terrified to be involved in this fight, and I think we need to question the individuals here rather than the larger forces at play. If you want to look at the larger forces, whoever gives the hero girls the mission does not actually intervene in any way or provide any commentary that relates to morality. The way the villains are defeated is interesting too, them evaporating and their clothes swirling until they reach the floor. To me, that looks very similar to the end of IU's Love One's All music video, and those characters were not meant to be the bad guys, but victims of a larger system they can't ultimately break free from. When I first watched this video, I was astounded by how important it felt to me. I know it isn't exactly high art, it doesn't even seem like it had that big of a budget. You could say it is style over substance, and the style was already cheap. But to me, and maybe to you as well, the style is the substance. It connects to memories that exist beyond one culture or the next. It connects to the broader experience of being a girl and allowing yourself to like girly things, despite society's messages that these things will never amount to its open approval. I'm pretty secure with my gender, but as a kid I struggled a lot with how I was going to be perceived. It led to a lot of conformity. It also led to a lot of burying my passions. To have obvious passion was to be perceived likely as otherly. I still struggle now. I know people often feel some type of way about K-pop, but it's better for me to feel this way. I have a vivid memory of being a kid, looking up at the sky and consciously thinking I wanted something to be passionate about. In my head, I have life pre and post Winx Club, and the recognition of post Winx Club makes me feel a little silly but very happy, even if there were and are struggles, and I felt and feel the need to hide sometimes. You would think it would be sad to think about one of these girls having nefarious intentions, but I welcome it. I want to live in a world with magic, but no story is interesting if there is no conflict, or they don't turn any tropes on their heads. This, to me, is the expansion of a magical world into my adult life. I welcome its complexity, same as I welcome its cheese here and fluff there. I welcome it. Also, Chaewon from the Sserafim and Bloom in the reboot have the same face, don't at me.